Hey friends, Irene Lyon here. Welcome to this video, to this YouTube channel, and to this world of healing, trauma, nervous system health, all things neuroplasticity. Doing a little different video today. I'm propping this up with my arm, so forgive the shakiness, but it's just too gorgeous to not do this outside for once. So, first of all, thank you for being here. Thanks for watching all of these videos. I want to keep this somewhat short, and it is a riff off of something I saw somewhere else. And it goes so well with what we are doing here. And it was a meme, if you will, but it was a quote from someone that I follow quite religiously, someone by the name of Gary Vaynerchuk. If you don't know who he is, I'll post his links below. While he is a businessman and a media expert, he is really hitting the nail on the head when it comes to parenting, when it comes to self-awareness, when it comes to mental health. I could share his clips all day because they relate so well to the nervous system and healing trauma and just being honest with yourself and honest with the world that we live in, the situations that we get into. But one of the quotes was something along the lines of, if you have a negative voice in your head, then someone else put it there. So if you have negative thoughts, low self-esteem, you feel crappy about yourself, all these things that are so darn common in our current Western culture. If you live with any of those, they're not yours. They are typically from our early upbringing, from our parental structures, from our school system. Sure, it also is from media, and just the entertainment industry telling us that we need to look a certain way, be a certain way. But mostly these, the ways in which we see ourselves, the ways in which we feel how we are the beliefs that we hold around us, they come from our early upbringing, usually before we are old enough to even understand language and communication. Now, I've done so many videos on the topic of healthy shame, toxic shame, how we are parented, what creates a healthy human. I'm going to be doing more on this because I think that, well, I know that many of us don't realize that we live in what's called a false sense of self. So I'll explain that. False sense of self versus our true self. Our false sense of self gets created when we have to be different than who we are to basically appease those around us, usually our caregivers, maybe our school system, our siblings, our grandparents, etc., but also to be safe. Because if we sense that being who we truly are, being creative, being silly, maybe not being that great in school when everybody else wants you to be good in school. If we are living in this world where we're trying to, as Gary would say, keep up with the Joneses and be someone who we're not, that creates what's called a false sense of self. Keeping up with the Joneses is you're so insecure that you're trying to achieve material status to keep up with something, to make yourself feel better about your insecurity. I don't know who these fucking Joneses are, but they're bad fucking people. The Joneses are bad people, and they're ruining most of your lives. Our true self, who we truly are, gets squashed. It gets suppressed. It literally gets depressed. This is what causes mental illness. I'm not the only one who's talked about this. Many people in my field, Bessel van der Kolk, Gabor Mate, Peter Levine, the people I have learned from and with, they have all said time and time again, we look at mental illness and of course chronic illness, but let's talk mental here, and it can be traced back to our childhood. It can be traced back to how we were taught. I always say nobody was born wanting to hurt people. Nobody was born evil. I still truly believe that. I've got some other videos where I get into that. I will post them below. But nobody is born hating themselves. Nobody is born wanting to create a false self. It happens because we have to. It happens out of necessity. It isn't a choice when we're infants, when we're children. And then what occurs is we go into life, we feel that something isn't right. We feel that we're just not being honest with ourselves, with our work, with how we show up, but we don't know how to change it. And the first reason why we don't know how to change it is we're usually not even aware that we're living in this false sense of self. The movie The Matrix is a perfect representation of this.
This isn't real.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see.
This idea that there is this thing around us that we cannot see, but we are completely in it. And then if you've seen that movie, if you haven't, I hope you watch at least the first one, they start to realize what really is true, what the truth is. And it's a bit of a shock. It's a bit of a wake-up call, but it's important, because if we don't get this wake-up call, if we do not rise to the occasion and really bring ourselves back to who we truly are, life is going to feel really, really hard, really dull. And this is what, again, as I said, it creates this mental illness that is so rampant today. So if you know that you're someone who struggles with just being who you are, that's okay. And know from me that that can change. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes work, because we are literally rewiring patterns, and not just in the brain. It's not just about the brain, in the physiology, in the somatic self, and how we relate to this environment that we're in, how we relate to people, how we listen to our thoughts and what we do with them. It isn't enough to just be positive and think positively. We need to feel how our physiology is connected to that negative thinking, because typically this stuff gets ingrained before we can think and before we can talk and before we can communicate, kind of under the age of 3. So if we were brought up in this situation where as an infant we could not be who we are, we couldn't cry when we wanted, we were not cared for when we needed something, that sets up the tone for us shifting who we are so that we can basically be cared for and be safe. So know that positivity is definitely important. Gary is huge on that. We need to have a positive mindset and see the world in a way that brings more life and goodness to us, as opposed to seeing all the doom and gloom.
If you leave with anything for any of us, please take on the sense of responsibility that if you've got good and you feel good, to start sharing that content as well, because the world needs more of it.
And in addition to this, we must work on our physiology. We must work on our survival stress. We have to learn how to drop into our bodies, because that is what holds the answers, the clues, and the healing to becoming who we truly are. So bottom line, if you've got negative stuff floating in your body, if you've got illnesses and mental illnesses that you've been trying to fix forever and ever and ever, know that the body does not want this, the mind does not want this. It's usually something that was given to us when we were really young. It can be changed. I've seen it change in people. It takes work, it takes time, it takes patience, and it takes doing the right stuff. All right, my arms are super tired. I am going to end this video now. Let me know what you think. Be sure to check out Gary's work. I will post some of his videos below so that you can check them out. Keep learning, keep healing, keep showing up. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you next time.
You wanna address gun control? You wanna address opiate? You wanna address depression? And so you wanna address everything that's on the tip of the tongue of everybody in society? Let's get to parenting right now. My friends, if you're listening right now, if you want to get to the 5 things that all of us are talking about, gun control, drugs, suicide, let's get to the way we're fucking parenting kids in this country, which has gotten way, way, way out of hand around the insecurities of parents who use children no different than they use a fucking Mercedes-Benz, a home with 5 extra rooms, their vacations on Instagram. Stop using our children like products.